It is an honor to be your first guest speaker of the month, and I must say I am really loving Cindy's very inclusive definition of young and youthful. I made the cut. The topic this morning is about all of the boxes in our world. We're all familiar with the phrase, think outside of the box. But I'd like to talk about what it's like to actually be outside of the box. Because the boxes have a tendency to keep us small and limit us. But first, let's talk about the boxes themselves. Because somebody, somewhere, had to come up with these boxes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be asked to think outside the box or have a desire to be outside of the box. There are three main types of boxes. There are the boxes created by society. Some of those are based on a judgment or a characterization or an assumption about somebody. Stereotypes are the perfect example. Stereotypes are pretty prevalent in our society. There exists an entire catalog of jokes devoted to people of a certain persuasion with blonde hair. So in addition to dumb blondes, we have dumb jocks, geeks, nerds. It's a common assumption that if you like math and science, then you are most definitely a nerd, and you probably own the proverbial pocket protector. The other type of mold established by society says that you must meet some requirement or some definition in order to do or be something. Think about a ballerina, for example. We all have in mind a vision of what a ballerina looks like. I wondered as I was preparing if anything had ever been written about the ideal body type of a ballerina. So I did some research, and I found an article that described the ideal as being between 5'2" and 5'8", weighing in on the light side, with some women of the ideal type weighing as little as 90 pounds, with larger shoulders and hips, slightly sloping shoulders, and a somewhat long neck held upright to help convey the elegance of the dance. The ideal ballet dancer's knees have slight hyperextension when they aren't bent. Those are some pretty stringent requirements, not to mention the fact you have to be able to dance. What I love about this example is that prima ballerina Misty Copeland has come onto the scene and shaken up the dance world a bit by not conforming to the mold. Misty is an unlikely ballerina. I read an article about her in the New Yorker, and that was the title, An Unlikely Ballerina. Misty is unlikely not only because she is the first African-American dancer to be named principal dancer in the 75-year history of the American Ballet Theater Company, but Misty also happens to be quite curvy and extremely muscular. Misty is a most amazing dancer, but I think what is most amazing about her is her story. Misty did not start dancing until she was 13 years old. Most dancers who attain her level of success start when they're 3. And Misty did not have a supportive family life to help her pursue her passion and her dream of becoming a ballerina. Things were so bad that at one point she sought, or she contemplated, emancipation. But Misty manifested the right and perfect teachers and mentors for her. They saw her potential, and they helped her every step of the way. Misty really defied all odds to get where she is by not allowing the box to limit her. She experienced some setbacks along the way, but she never let anything outside of herself keep her from pursuing her passion and her dream. I think Misty is thriving outside of the box. So much so that when Mattel introduced the first Misty Copeland Ballerina Barbie doll just a few weeks ago, it sold out in 45 minutes. So I think there are lots of little girls, and maybe some big ones too, who are really excited about having a new role model. I love it. Well, just in case ballet isn't your thing, I have another example. This one is for all of the football players in the room, football fans in the room. I was reading one day and I ran across an article, the title, "Mason Fine, Quarterback in a Box." And I confess I have never stopped to read an article about football. But given the title, I could not pass this one up. And what I learned is that Mason is just finishing up his senior year at Locust Grove High School in Oklahoma. Mason had a record-setting football career. He passed for just over 13,000 yards and completed 166 touchdown passes. What's interesting about Mason, though, is he is 5 feet 10 3/4 inches tall. Those are Mason's words. And he weighs a whopping 167 pounds. Because of his size, recruiters that watched Mason play didn't think of quarterback when they saw him. But Mason had a dream. He didn't let that stop him. Mason wanted to play Division I college ball, and he wanted to play in a bowl game. So he did absolutely everything he could to hone his skills. He took advantage of the wisdom of his coaches and learned absolutely everything he could from them. When the article was written, Mason had not yet received an offer to play ball from one of the schools that he hoped to play for, but it was later updated to say that the University of North Texas stepped up. They thought outside the box and decided that Mason would be an asset to their team. So they made him an offer and Mason accepted. So Mason is now officially outside of the box. So we have Stereotypes, Misty, and Mason. Those are examples of our boxes created by society. That brings us to the boxes created or encouraged by our families out of an expectation or, I think that's a good word, an expectation of what is good or acceptable. We've all seen businesses with names like Smith and Sons. So obviously there's an expectation that the male children are going to participate in the family business. I know of families with second and third generation teachers, doctors, military. Another example of this type of box are the families that all root for the same sports team. Somehow these roles help define the family or contribute to their identity as a unit. I experienced another type of box founded in family recently when I was asked to do some healing work on a 19-year-old young lady. It was distance healing, so I did not have an opportunity to meet her. And as I was working, Spirit said to me, "The wind has been knocked out of her sails." I didn't know what that meant at the time, but later I learned that this young lady is incredibly energetic. I think boisterous is probably a good word to describe her. She's in constant motion and apparently super chatty. No one in her family is like her, though. They're all very quiet and subdued. And so they're forever telling her to be still and be quiet. They created a box for her that is far too small for her big, vibrant spirit. Unintentionally, they really had knocked the wind out of her sails. In that small box, her spirit didn't have enough room to express. And so what had manifested in her body was a serious lung ailment. her wind really was compromised. Her spirit longed to be outside of that box, and so her body was demonstrating it so she could see. I wanted to share this example with you because it illustrates sometimes how profound the effects the boxes can have in our lives. So that brings us to the third type of box, and those are the ones that we create ourselves. We create them for a reason. Typically it is to keep us safe or to protect us from something. I happen to be an expert in this type of box. So I will share a story of you that a box that I manifested and have carried with me most of my life. Unlike my spiritual family, my birth family is a little bit dysfunctional. As a child, I was always very sensitive to the energy around me, so I would often go sit in my closet. I had my very own box with walls and a door that I could go to whenever I wanted. It was my escape. At some point, I decided that the best way for me to manage being a part of this family was to be very quiet and very good. I thought that if I could be quiet and good, then everything in my world would be okay. So I got really good at being quiet and good. It was easy to fly under the radar, being quiet and good. I'm happy to say that I did grow out of going into the closet. That's a good thing. But I managed to take with me all of the limitations that I placed on myself. The limitations of being the quiet observer and the listener, rather than being full-on participant. I took those limitations with me wherever I went. I survived my entire 18-year academic career without ever asking a question in class. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. I didn't want anybody to judge me or my question. And when it came time to choose my career, I decided that I would be perfectly content sitting in the back room of an office somewhere, crunching numbers all day long. And so that's what I did. As you may have guessed, I definitely fall on the introvert side of the scale. And yes, I'm a nerd. Self-proclaimed, though. Oh, and no pocket protector. I'm an introvert with a secret, though. Secretly, I always longed to be the life of the party. Not the one, I didn't want to be the one with the lampshade on her head, but I wanted to be the funny one, the one with the witty banter, the one regaling all of the partygoers with my interesting stories. I shared this with Cindy once, and she gave me something to work toward. She said, "You may not be the life of the party, Lori, but you can certainly be the delight of the party." When you think about it, wallflower to life of the party, it's a bit of a stretch. I couldn't leap out of my box and that I had created and be something that I'm not. But if I could stretch a bit, if I could expand enough to take baby steps, then I could give myself an opportunity to blossom somewhere other than just the wall. Without the nudge from Cindy, I would not be standing here today. I remember very clearly the day that she called and asked me to speak. I hung up the phone and I buried my face in my hands and I asked God, why does she do this to me? She knows me. What in the world makes her think that I could ever stand on this stage and present a Sunday service? She very purposefully gave me some time to think about it. And And I decided that I was going to use that time constructively. I was going to use it to come up with a very polite way of saying thanks, but in that moment I knew that it was never going to happen. But never say never, right? God heard me. Because the moment I said no, I got the download for my topic today. The words started coming and I started taking notes. By the time I was finished, I had an entire outline, complete with examples. I'd never had that happen outside of a meditation before. It was beautiful. There is a sentence in Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East that I just love, and it says, "When God says yes, refuse to take no." Throughout all of my preparation, God was clearly saying yes to me. Spirit would wake me with an idea, or I would get another unexpected download, or I would be shown an article, Mason Fine, Quarterback in a Box. I've always asked God to speak to me in billboards that I can see and that I can recognize. Because I don't always hear the whispers, and I don't always see the small signs. So, don't you know, when I saw that article about Mason, I knew I had my billboard. I can't say that it was all easy, though. There were some days when my fear about standing here today brought me to tears. And that's when I got creative. I started making boxes within my box. First, I made my Cindy box, thinking that I needed to be just like her. I thought if I could just stand here and hear God and allow those words to flow through, then I would have the most beautiful message for you. But then the voice came. Who are you kidding? What makes you think that in that moment, in the midst of your nervousness, over the pounding of your heart in your chest, that you would be able to hear God in that moment? The voice won, and I abandoned my Cindy box, only then to make my Patrick box. I thought how wonderful it would be if I was calm enough, relaxed enough, comfortable enough in my body to move about the stage freely, all while sharing an encouraging word for you and laughing at my own jokes. But the voice came and said, "What are you thinking? Your notes will be way over there. What makes you think you'll be able to give up your white-knuckled grip on the podium long enough to move about?" I finally got smart, and I realized I can't be Cindy and I can't be Patrick. I can only be myself. It's been such an interesting journey, and Spirit has been so beautifully kind to me, because every now and then I would be gifted with a vision of what today looked like. And much to my surprise, it wasn't horrible. I was actually enjoying myself. What I learned was that examination of my box opened the door for me to get a glimpse of something that my heart and my soul wanted, even though my thoughts and my fears were taking me in a completely different direction. As metaphysicians, we know that in order to create a new effect, in order to have a new experience in our lives, we have to set forth a new causal energy. That causal energy is made up of your intention coupled with your action. I like to think of that as your heartfelt intention combined with inspired action. Divinely inspired action based on the desires of your heart. That's exactly what Misty and Mason did. They were persistent in the pursuit of their dreams without any concern about the limitations that the box placed on them. I wasn't blessed with that perfect clarity like Misty and Mason. My head and my heart were in two different places because of all the self-imposed limitations. But I have felt completely supported along the way. Spirit would show me one step after another, so I knew the next right step to take. When I was somewhere between a meltdown and a breakdown, the next step would appear, or a beautiful sign would come my way to let me know that I was okay. Or even if I didn't know, it gave me hope. Looking back, I see that I received exactly what I needed when I needed it. And here I am. I'm calling this my debut, so. I wanted to include scripture today, and Spirit guided me to chapter 20, and one of my many stepping stones, to chapter 20 in the Aquarian Gospel. In this chapter, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary have traveled to Jerusalem to participate in the big Passover celebration. And now they are on their way home. So again, this is chapter 20, page 38. We have, "And they were in Samaria, and Mary said, 'Where is my son?' No one had seen the boy. And Joseph sought among their kindred who were on their way to Galilee, but they had seen him not. Then Joseph, Mary, and a son of Zebedee returned and sought through all Jerusalem, but they could find him not. And then they went up to the temple courts and asked the guards, 'Have you seen Jesus, a fair-haired boy with deep blue eyes, 12 years of age, about these courts?' The guards replied, 'Yes, he is in the temple now, disputing with the doctors of the law.' And they went in and found him as the guards had said. And Mary said, 'Why, Jesus, do you treat your parents thus? Lo, we have sought 2 days for you. We feared that some great harm had overtaken you.' And Jesus said, 'Do you not know that I must be about my Father's work?'" I love this because Jesus is 12 years old, perfect for our theme of youthful energy, youthful perspective for the month. Because other than Christmas, we always talk about Jesus as a grown man. Jesus was my inspiration during my preparation because he lived his entire life outside of the box. Here he is, he's 12. He's not off playing with the children. He followed his heart's desire to go have a conversation with his elders. He's about his Father's work. From those words, we see that at 12 years old, he'd already shifted identity from Son of Man to child of God. Jesus, he could have followed in his Father's footsteps and learned the family trade, but he didn't. He chose to leave his home and his family so he could share with everyone everything he knew about God. It was his intention to teach the children and the people that they could talk to God and hear God and manifest with God. He stood in the temples and taught not as a priest, but as an ordinary man with an extraordinary relationship with God. It was his heart's desire for the people to have a relationship with God like he did, to know God like he did. And so he partnered with God to manifest his mission. All of his life he took inspired action, and he was supported every step of the way. If you have an awareness of a box in your world, I think it's safe to say that your higher self would like for you to do something about it. So decide what new effect, what new experience you would like to have in your world without the limitations of the box. You have your formula. Your intention plus your action equal that new effect. Your heartfelt intention combined with your inspired action can be that beautiful new experience that your heart longs for. And if you don't like formulas as much as I do, think about it this way. Really, all you have to do is lead with your heart and walk with God. How easy is that? I would love to guide you through a meditation to help you get some clarity, to see what your heart has to say about a box in your world. Are you ready to go with it? Okay. All right, get comfortable in your chair and put your feet on the floor. Close your eyes and just breathe. Breathe and feel God's tremendous love for you. Invite Jesus to sit with you, to support you. Ask to be shown a box in your world, something that is currently limiting you in some way. Take a look around. What do you see? Are you alone in your box? Notice how you feel in your box. Be aware of any emotions that come up, any sensations in your body. Now, just as Jesus did, claim your identity as child of God. Take your focus now to your heart and ask what is your heart's desire regarding the situation. What is the ideal for you? Notice how you feel in the midst of the ideal. Now request an action step that you can take to help you bring about the desire of your heart. Ask to remember the details that are important to you. Send love and gratitude to Jesus for his support. Send love and gratitude for the awareness. And send love and gratitude in anticipation of all the support that is to come. Breathe and feel your seat beneath you, your feet on the floor. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I think as you begin to take your action steps, you will be pleasantly surprised and often amazed at the amount of support that comes your way. I really was. And before I give up the podium today, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to all of you for being so welcoming, so receptive, and so supportive of me this morning. Today happens to be my birthday. A very youthful birthday.
Exactly.
But really, all of you have given me a most precious gift because you have given me an opportunity to be outside my box. So, thank you all.